I think there's way too many variables when it comes to what you've done, who you are as a person. If you could summarize it in one sentence, how would you do it?
Goodness sakes, yeah. Purpose-driven life, man. I'm living a purpose-driven life, and I've done that throughout my career. Just I have more decision over the purpose now.
Yep, live purposefully. I mean, I see lots of corporate trainings that say it's all about live purpose, but
words.
Just words.
The words.
How do we make it
culture.
Substance?
How do we make it a culture?
How do we make it a culture? Exactly. So thank you so much coming here. Yeah, you have some amazing stories. We actually met at Kodawari.
Love it.
I brought even Gunther, who he did the cold plunge sauna with me.
Yeah, brother. Listen, it's a community. I'm big on communities.
Yeah. No, I had that in Austin, so I was so grateful, and obviously that's what comes out of great community.
Yeah.
Brings great people together.
Like-minded people, shared community, and I think there's a big disconnection out there in the world. We were talking about that off camera, and there's a big disconnection out there between, the things that matter and what we think matters, and if you surround yourself with other people like you, you'll see great things happen. It's a mindset, man. It is. We all have bad things happen to good people. Good things happen to bad people. It's how you respond. And I've learned as I've gotten older to be less reactive. And we'll talk about that when we talk about jumping out of airplanes and Mount Everest and, making horror films. Well,
sweet. Well, the purpose of this, I've always said, is I want to document my experience of not just building, but learning.
Yeah.
I need people with experience, that have stories that can help me discover how to live a life on fire. How do you encourage other young adults to not just want to have success, but challenge what that means and become the best people they can? What draws the desire to be good? Because I don't want to have everyone hit rock bottom like I did.
Yeah. So, I think there's a level of that, though, right? So, man, I wish I could just take a chip out of my head and stick it in other people's chip. But, it's happened to me even at the most personal level, not to myself, but I was married at one point, and she went down the rabbit hole, unfortunately. She saw the LA high, it's an illusion, man. It's not real. And you hit the nail on the head earlier with the success. What success to you and success to me are two different things. I walk over and say, hey, Gunther, what do you think is success? He's going to have his own definition of it. You're going to have a definition, and mine's not monetarily related. But and maybe because I've had all of that, and I've just realized that the money just magnifies who you already are. In other words, if you're a dick or a bitch, you're going to be a bigger bitch or dick. And if you're generous, you're going to be more generous with your time, with everything. And I think it's just a magnifier.
And where do you think in your life, my story was, I kind of told you, went down a rabbit hole of wanting fame, and then I hit a rock bottom. What was your spark to be I need to be a better human being? Or was that a pinpoint moment, or kind of just gradual?
I think you and I both. So we come from good families, right? So that we knew, and I've learned this from personal experience. Not everybody came out of that family that I came out of. My parents are still married. They don't go anywhere without each other. So I only know one version of marriage. You don't go anywhere without your wife. But see, other people that didn't come out of that, I thought it was a teachable thing, and I learned I can't teach it to everybody. You knew where right and wrong was. And there's a line. I know in your mind, you knew you were doing wrong at one point because you knew what wrong was.
Yeah.
So I've been around people that we take this for granted. These simple core family values and whatever they may be, but there's a basic family foundation out there. And I think that there's just in America, there's a huge disconnection on that. And there's a focus on fame. I want to be successful. What is this OnlyFans stuff? I live in Argentina, so I don't know so much about these things, but it seems to be very prevalent. I've been watching YouTube, and there's some killings going on in our YouTube. What are they? OnlyFans models. But these people, they're putting money over. They're putting money as their god, and that's a hollow experience, man.
Yeah.
It after you've had, let's just say, next year you're successful, or let's YouTube, you get 5 million hits a month or whatever that pays. I don't know, but I know they make a lot of money at it. Okay, the first year you got the yacht. You're going out on the yacht. Okay, you go to the hotel, they got a presidential suite. They got one presidential suite. They don't have a second presidential suite that the real president stays at. There's one. So once you stayed in that presidential suite, and you've, had the robe and the slippers and the caviar and, the Aston Martin. And once you've had that, year 2, we were talking about with the Grammys after 10 years of me being at the Grammy Awards, like year 11, there's nothing going to change. In fact, it's diminishing returns. That experience is getting diluted every year just as much as that presidential suite is not as impactful the second time you stay in it.
So you've experienced that firsthand emotionally. Lots of things. I always say I can read it on paper, but nothing actually adds a layer of sediment to my soul of who I am until I feel those emotions in the moment of, oh, I just learned this lesson. I understand it. You said, I wish I could put a chip in your brain. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to almost skip, or do people need to have that firsthand emotional response to truly change and broaden their perspective?
Yeah. I struggle with this one. I do a lot. I struggle because I failed it in my personal relationship, just not being able to, show him the door correctly. And that haunted me for 8 years. I mean, it was a long time that it just continued to bother me. I don't fail it much. And I feel that it's a hybrid, maybe what you're talking about. I think maybe, and for me, I had success at a very young age, at 18, 17, 18. And so for me, I had been, and had this luxury of being around, and we'll talk about that. I had this luxury of being around like the world's greatest athletes and traveling on, internationally at 17, 18, 19. And it was just, for me, it became part of my life. So I had a competitive advantage. Most people go to college and then go through that route of having to make some money, and maybe their late 20s, they've got enough to go on a all-inclusive vacation or whatever. No, that my life at 18, we'll go back. So I played professional tennis. And my roommate was a guy named Andre Agassi, who became number 1 in the world. So at 17, 18, 19, I'm in Roland Garros, in French Open. I'm at the U.S. Open, Tashkent, Uzbekistan, Lima, Peru. I'm traveling around on a private jet at 18 before private jets were cool. So I got catastrophically injured at 19, broke my neck in 2 places. So I have the titanium bolted all the way down my neck, and I got scars across the front and massive.
Oh, I see it.
Massive, sorry about that. Massive scars down the back. I mean, I've had like 19 spinal surgeries, which is so much more entertaining. Like people go, wait, you jump out of airplanes now? Like, how do you do that? It's not just the jumping. I have this catastrophic injury. So the moment that you're referring to, I guess, for me, happened at 19. I got hit by a drunk driver, broke my neck in 2 places, shattered all my hands, my nose, my eyes, femur. I mean, broke everything. It was like a halo, a whole 9 yards, Wow. So at 19, I went from like one of the best athletes in the world to I couldn't even close my finger to pick up a pencil. It was humbling. And I realized at that point, all my friends, agent, they all disappeared. And I get it now, but they didn't want to see, nobody wants to see somebody injured, because that makes you mortal. And at the time, I was living in my own hell. Like, I couldn't ride in a car for 6 months. This was like 1987, 88, when they're doing these massive back surgeries, and I couldn't even take a chance of somebody hitting me until the bones fused. So I was like stuck for 6 months, walking around every day. All I was allowed to do was walk, and I would just walk, and it was just, my brain was just eating myself up. And, and I'd seen my friends, I'd flip on the TV, and they're playing in the finals of Wimbledon, and I'm like, man, like it was just, it lit a fire for me. Yeah. I knew I was on borrowed time now. I knew they put Humpty Dumpty back together again. And I was like, that's it. I'm going full throttle on everything. I'm going right to the decision maker from here on out. Any job they give me, I'm going to finish it. I don't care if it kills me. I don't care if I die. It's
like going back to the emotional response. So you read the quote on Instagram, a man has 2 lives. And the second one starts when you realize he only has 1. And it's like, well, that seems cool to read on Instagram, like every other quote. But until you experience something like that, it really doesn't change the structure of how you operate your life.
But everybody's going to have something bad happen to them. Mm-hmm. And so what I say, whether it's you're 80 or 70 or 50 or 40 or whatever you're going to, I just got my bad luck out of the way early. That's how I look at it. I'm like, oh, that's all you got? You broke my neck? Oh, I got that way out. And all that did was flip the switch for me. Because I've treated everything that I've done since then as it's my last event. I go right for the top on everything. And I'm not competing against you. It's me I'm competing against.
Yeah.
Me.
It's me versus me.
Me versus me always. Other people then take it personally and think, somehow or another, I'm like trying to, outdo them. I'm like, I don't even know how to spell your name. Like, I'm not even on my radar.
Can we talk about both sides of the door, the me versus me, based off your experience? Because I quite notice myself in times of reflection, I can be pessimistic, almost negative, the me versus me, when there's also, you need to be your best friend too, instead of just like a coach who does nothing but spew negative, coaching.
Right,
so what's your experience with both sides of the door?
So how do you know? So, all right. So how do you identify when you've gotten to there? Because when for me, it's never been like a catastrophic, outside of the physically accident. That was catastrophic. The rest of the things are like small decisions. And then, that's that old saying, it's the little decisions that add up to it's not one decision that got you there. Like when you see somebody on the side of the road, like the homeless person, it wasn't one bad decision that put them there.
Compound interest.
It was compounded interest. That's right. And it just becomes, and when you get into that negative space, I have trouble. I've had some depression throughout my life, and I've had like difficult times pulling myself out of it. Mm-hmm. And I've been real close to the edge, man, like several times. So, I wish I could like figure out what it was, but it is yeses or positivity is just as contagious as no's and negativity. If I can get people to say yes on anything, I don't care if it's a stupid, like, can I park here? Yes. So it's always ask things in the affirmative, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm always approaching something trying to get yeses, because those yeses, if I can stack enough of those on the day, I had a good day.
Yeah.
It's that negative. When we all have friends that call us or we know or whatever, that they always seem to have drama circling around them. Whether it's a guy or a girl or it's this or it's that. But it was the same thing the guy before, the girl before. It was the same thing. And you want to feel bad for them, and I used to, but as I've gotten older, I realized by personal experience, people make bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to our foundation. When you were going down your rabbit hole, I bet you it wasn't one decision. You started to work on, I wanted to be famous. You started working on YouTube. You started working on your social media side. But then you started making decisions that were like sub-decisions underneath that, like who you hang out with.
Yeah.
You are with rule number one, the people around you, pay attention to the people around you. I'm lucky. I'm surrounded by SEAL Team 6 and Delta Force. So I'm best filmmaker in the world, Dan Myrick. So for me, I'm very fortunate. But I go out here in Tampa a couple times, and there's some suspect behavior going around here. And it seems very transactional. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel that most relationships now have become, what's in it for me? Yeah. I gave you this, you give me that. No, you can't do that. This is how then the anger starts, right? Because I gave you tickets 3 times to a concert and you never gave me anything. And so don't give with that anticipation of receiving. If you give to someone and they don't reciprocate, move on. They're not one of us.
And how do we approach that it's the lack of knowing how good life can get, because you're so used to these highs, when compassion and love and peace knocks out the park any day. It's just harder to find in this world, in this society right now.
I've seen some bad stuff in the world, and I've seen some great stuff in the world. And I'm going to go back to Jesus. There was bad stuff and there's good stuff. And so what's changed since Jesus has been around to what is today? Is Israel's still at war now with somebody, right? I mean, that was 2,000 years ago. So this is going to happen. Soviet Union, Russia, America sticking their nose in places they shouldn't. I don't think the world can be peaceful. I think governments, and the governments proved that through the pandemic, that they just grabbed all this control and they manipulated lives. And it wasn't just in America. I know most people's experience was only here in America, but I was in South America when this was going on. And then I was in Asia, and I was in all 7 continents throughout this. So it was a global pandemic.
Yeah.
Like the fear when I went down to Peru in 2021 to work on a presidential campaign for Keiko Fujimori. I was advising on her campaign, and they double mask, face shield, and they have their army with AK-47s on the street. There's no like Karens or whatever they call them over here yelling because you don't have your mask on. No, this is the military.
Yeah.
With AK-47s, they're not asking.
Yeah.
So, and I watched the people just get manipulated, and they had just as much suicide and domestic abuse and depression as we did. They just speak Spanish. That's all. But everybody was affected, and I think it was the great global equalizer. And what I've seen, at least for me and the dudes around me and the people around me, they got woke. And I mean, not that way. I mean, they woke up and they went, you know what? I got to get after it. That thing I wanted to do before, and I've been kicking down the road, like jumping, skydiving Everest. I got a call from Mike Sorelli, SEAL Team 6. He's like, Kristian, I've always wanted to jump into Mount Everest. Okay, you want to go? Yeah, I'm in. Like, he could have kept kicking that can because we're all so busy, right? But that world's paused, and then his business paused, and everyone's business paused. And some people, my friends, found other things to put their focus on, their energies, because these guys are high-functioning, empathetic dudes. They're like super high-functioning. You put one of those guys in the corner, you don't bench these guys. Yeah. They're active dudes. So, again, surround yourself. You know, young people, I tell them, don't hang out in the clubs doing the bottle club. Like, nobody pays $500 for a bottle of vodka. This is stupid. Like, do something. You're going to feel a lot better going out and doing a community yoga class give yourself a chance, man. Go down and try the community yoga class that's out in the park. You're going to meet people. It's better than the experience of black lights and the transactional activity that's going on in the discoteca, the nightclub. For sure. Yeah. You tell me when you've been the most like engaged. Was it in the nightclub, or was it, when you were at Kodawari or having an authentic conversation?
Authentic conversation every time.
Right. And this is a lot cheaper than going out and I'm not just even financially, just the mental manipulation that's going on. There's a lot of manipulators out there, first of all. Yeah. A lot of people insecure with their lives and are manipulating with power or money or influence, and that's all perception, man. Like I told you, now that we've skydived all 7 continents in 7 days, like I never need another brand the rest of my life. I never need to buy another Aston Martin again. Like, you sent an Uber for me. I don't even have a car. Like, for me, I don't need any of that stuff anymore. I got 2 bags of clothes. Sponsors send me clothes, and that's what I got. 2 bags of clothes. I switch them out. It's the truth.
So there's a phrase I read almost every morning. It's actually my screensaver right here, where it says, make a decision with such firm intent that it overrides the hardwired programs and emotional conditioning in your body. Whether it's years of watching porn, whether it's how we grew up here, I have to genuinely every day, if I want to be the best father and husband I can be in the future, I have to make a decision with firm intention constantly. I set alarms on my phone to remind myself because I slip over and over again.
Everybody slips. But it's amazing to me that you've recognized this, and it is a way of life. It's a lifestyle. It's a chosen lifestyle. Just as much as being a yacht girl is a chosen lifestyle. It's as disgusting to me, but we all know it exists. It exists here at the micro level. Yeah. Like you just choose not to participate. And I encourage everyone, man, to ask themselves to be better, because you're all better than what you are. I'm nothing special, and somehow or another I went to all 7 continents in 6 days, 6 hours, and 6 minutes. Like, I don't have any super skills, man. Like, you would know that. We did a class. I'm just normal. Like, this is a normal thing. I followed a team of people far more educated, far more experienced than me. So again, it's who you surround yourself with. I am the weakest link in that chain by far. In fact, I always joke how my name got on that list. Like, it's a joke to me. It continues to get on these lists. Thank God it's on good lists so far. I'm sure it's on a couple bad lists on some other people's lists too. But it's because my expectations of going into when the pandemic came around, I made a pivot. I would, for years, we'll go back a little bit, but for years I worked for the Grammy Awards for 10 years. Started in 2011 and went all the way up to 2020. And I did 17 Grammy Awards. I did 10 Grammys and 7 Latin Grammys. So it's the same gramophone. They're different color bases. That's it. It's different color bases. So it's the same show, same cameras, same CBS, Telemundo. It's the same format. I lost interest. I have to look at my phone. I was out last night having some drinks with dinner and with some friends and that I've known for like 20 years. And I was like, they asked me something about it. I had to look at the phone. I'm like, I should know these things. Like, but they all blended together. There was, other than the first couple, I mean, I remember the first one. Everyone remembers your first one, right? I remember the anxiety and because I didn't know anything.
Yeah.
But after the fifth, like I knew like what time on Tuesday and what time, because it's Grammy week. It's the whole week of events, like Super Bowl week. You have a different event every day and press conferences. So I knew like my life was on a schedule. There was nothing. They don't leave anything to chance. So when you live your life and you know if you live, my life was literally living off a TV schedule, and it tells me what time we're going to commercial break. It tells me what time we're coming back. I mean, there's nothing exciting about that. Yeah. You kind of hope a mic goes out or a camera goes down or somebody's wireless guitar's not working pack. You know, you like one year in 2012, second year at the Grammys. This shows you that, again, I'm surrounded by the best people in the world, the best sound engineers, the best producers, best recording. And we have a division inside the Recording Academy called the Producers and Engineers Wing. Well, they're the best in the world. And so we have two mixes going on. We have a mix for the 12,500 attendees at the Staples Center. And then we have a separate truck right next to it with a separate mix that's going out to the CBS telecast. There's a 7-second delay. So Adele comes out. She opens the show. Big deal. She had just won 6 Grammys in 2011. So big deal. She's opening the show. Well, the guy's playing a piano and Adele's on a stool. A mic fell in the piano. Like bing, bing, bing. Like it sounded like the worst sound. You can imagine like the piano strings hitting the microphone. So of course it sounded like terrible. My guys are so good in that truck. They were able to isolate that single mic, and the people at home never heard that. Now, the 12,500 on site sounded like a train wreck. And they were like, what's going on? You know, of course, we just can't isolate that one. But we were able to isolate that mic, and it never went out past the CBS telecast. And that's when you just go, oh, my God, I'm on a team of, like, these people aren't phoning it in.
Yeah.
And it just elevates your game. So when you're surrounding yourself, and you could do it, everybody can do it. It's all access, right? It's just access, a little luck, little access, and then timing.
Well, who is the audio engineer in Kristian's life right now?
Oh, God.
And as far as like an accountability aspect, mind, body, spirit.
It's a show. It's a one-man show right now. I mean, I've been with my filmmaking partner, Dan Myrick from Blair. He and we grew up together. So he's my best friend, obviously. He's currently riding his bicycle from Canada to Mexico. This is what happens when I don't have a film for him to work on. He goes nuts, and who rides a bicycle from Canada border to the Mexican border? He's like on day 26 today. I feel like this is crazy. He camps out. So I'm a little lost right now because I don't have complete connectivity with him. Normally we're talking throughout the day. But yeah, man, it's pretty much we're independent filmmakers, and we didn't get, Dan's known, he's in the World Book, Guinness World Book of History for the most successful film in history with Blair. And so, I only learned how to make movies like that. And so these people at the studios and stuff, they have lots of audio engineers because they don't actually have an authentic thought. For me, I've been real fortunate that I got a partner, Mike Sorelli, SEAL team at Legacy Studios, and then Dan Myrick. And that's kind of my like little world, man. Like, I'm talking to other people and other producers and stuff, but my real world is really, it's tight. It's a small group because they authentically know me. Yeah. You get to know someone when you're with them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in like extreme conditions. The sexiness is gone after hour 3, like in Antarctica, it's -50, like there's no more, you gotta carry your own backpack. Yeah. There's no crew or craft services or, all right, timeout break. You're taking care of yourself. So I've just gotten real efficient and I'm real selective about who I'm around. Like I've been here in Tampa now, promoting 777, the movie, and staying at a buddy's house. And I have only gone out twice. Like my whole day consists of just working from the computer, calls, Zooms, and then I go to yoga at 6. And that's it. That's it. I don't go anywhere else. And I am a little nervous about my image, right? So I don't want to get caught in a bad position. Everybody, everybody's got one of these devices now, and they all got a camera on them. And we both know you could take a picture of anyone doing anything and it could be misconstrued. And I'm super cognizant about my teammates and who they are, and I try to elevate my life to keep it. Like, I don't want to put them in a bad position. These guys are the best in the world, No one even knew SEAL Team 6 existed until President Obama. Now I've got him, like the first person to ever put SEAL Team 6 members on film. So there was a lot of hurdles that went in there, and Dan and I had to overcome a lot of anxieties. And these guys are programmed that when they see a camera and a red light, to stop talking.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of challenges involved. All things that all things that I really enjoy. But back to my whole life, the last 3.5 years, it's probably consisted of 16 people, all teammates. I mean, if we weren't training for something, we were actually on the expedition, and when we weren't on the expedition, we were editing. Mm-hmm. So it's I didn't show the movie 777. All right, my mom and dad saw it, but come on. They saw it, and then one girl / friend, she saw it, but that's it, right? I didn't show it to anyone. You want to know insecurity? Shit. Dan and I would go up red carpet, May 11th in New York City. We did Good Morning America and Fox and Friends and Brian Kilmeade show. We do all these, like, oh God, Asian television. We're doing all this media, and I was nervous. We walked in, Dan and I walked in, and I'm telling you, is the stomach, the anxiety, the insecurity. Like, are they going to think it's funny? Because you're so close to a project, you're so close to it that you don't see it anymore. Yeah. And your family's not going to tell you it sucks, right? Yeah. So Dan and I did not sit inside the theater the first night. We did like a 7 cities, 7 states, 7 screenings in 7 days, the theme of the 777 thing. And Dan and I didn't start actually sitting in the theater until the third screening. Because I'm super nervous, man. Like, what if they came out and said it sucked? I mean, my God, and I was going to let everybody down, and it's terrible. You putting yourself out there, right? Because you're putting yourself out there. Yeah. So people, like, if it's successful, like, oh yeah, it's us, and it was him. Oh, it sucked. Is it him? So that was a very humbling moment. And I love those moments, I think that as you get older and people become more successful or more insulated, they don't have those moments anymore. And they're not authentic because there's so many yes people around them. And I don't care if you're a CEO or president of a company and it has nothing to do with feature films. The people that are VPs, they're, as General Fenton said to me recently, Brian Fenton here at SOCOM said to me, he goes, they're all playing Where's My Cheese? I said, sir, where's my cheese? He goes, as long as they get paid. So no one's going to really tell you how to change something because they're trying to protect their own interests. And that's very difficult to lead. There's very few leaders that can actually lead from the front. A lot of them lead from the mid and the rear.
And what does that look like? I'm kind of like pivoting, but in a family dynamic, from family dynamic to the group of friends that a bunch of 24-year-olds are hanging out with, what does leading from the front look like? Or what would you think?
Taking challenges, man. So I have no insecurities. So I actually, if I'm going to tell you to do something, it was the best thought out idea I had. Maybe I can get a version of it a little bit better, tweak it as we get into it. But I'm not going to tell you something that, $200,000 budget. If I can do it on 80, I'm going to tell you it's 80. Like I'm going to do, and that's real leadership, man. It's not putting yourself first. And I see that amongst these SEAL team and Delta. They're all, these guys. So they have a wonderful process in special operations. It doesn't matter rank. Yes, there's a captain. Yes, there's a lieutenant. Yes, there's, but the majority of guys are enlisted. And they have this theory. It's called the good idea wins. Best idea wins. We sit in a room as we were tactically planning 777. The officer, the highest ranking officer, Mike Sorelli, in a typical army or a typical organization, whether it was a CEO of a company or corporation, if the president says something or the CEO says something, I doubt from my experience, a VP is going to override him. No, sir, we can't do that. Like, no, we should do it like this. No, they're going to back whatever he says. Yeah. And the CEO, he's human. Like, he's not going to have the best idea. He might be the guy leading at that point. But what I saw and what I experienced, what makes me like tactically effective is the fact that there's no ego in the room. Everybody's a badass. Everybody earned the buds. Everybody earned the trident. No, it's the best idea. And if it's the most junior guy that has the best idea, he has equal time in that room as the officers do. And I've been on many operations where the most junior guy actually had the best plan. And it takes that outside, because the minute you're like centric to something, like you've been in a culture for a while, you get adopted into that culture. So having a non-centric view and having someone that come in with isn't jaded or doesn't have these expectations going in, that's what I like. And I think every corporation should do that more. They should bring in people from the out. But there's that fear, right? There's that fear. Oh my God, the VP doesn't want to bring in an advisor. Most of the time, I would fight with the senior VP because they'd see me coming in and they'd be like, they immediately think their job's on the line, which I'm there to augment their job, but they can't. At the Grammys, I didn't have that problem with Evan Green, CMO, Chief Marketing Officer. Evan and I, it was a little bumpy to start because this was like a forced marriage, but over time, quickly, he realized and trusted me enough that I was there because I wanted to stay in the room. And he has the ability to get me out of the room by just working against me, and then I'm not going to be effective. And they're like, see, that guy, we don't need him. But he didn't. He realized that in short order that working together, he'd stay in his lane and I'd stay in my lane, but I'd augment his lane. Mm-hmm. And that was, I appreciate that. And it's rare that I run into that though. I know right away when I'm on the phone with someone or I'm talking to a company interested in bringing me in or whatever, I start asking, I flip the interview around, I flip it around. I'm like, well, I'm not sure you're ready for a guy like me yet. It doesn't sound like you're ready you don't call a guy like me unless you need a guy like me. But then you don't clip my wings either. Like, that's not going to work. You don't get a diluted version of me. Mm-hmm. You get me. And I'm going to say this, and we're going to do that. And I don't really care about winning another gold medal. You can have it.
Have you replicated anything like that in your friendships?
Dude, I got like 3 friends. So.
Well, one of the 3?
Yeah. Of course, I would be here on a Sunday afternoon, brother Mitch, if you weren't. It's so difficult. It's so difficult. I left the United States of America in 2021 to move to Latin America. Here, it's so damn diluted in that, and the family values to me don't align with my family values. And maybe I'm at that place in my life where I just feel extremely comfortable in who I am. And that's intimidating to a lot of people, So when I walk into a room, 50% of people hate me and 50% love me. You know where I made the mistake during the Grammys for years when I was married? I can tell you exactly where it went wrong. Because when you're married and you have somebody in there, you're trying to make that, you're compromised. You're supposed to be compromising, right? So you can't just be you all the time. And so you got to come over. So she loved this red carpet stuff. But when you enter somebody else's version in there and you're trying to appease them or make them happy, you end up diluting yourself. Mm. And it's I wouldn't have been in a lot of the relationships that were very challenging. We call them, I had to enter into I was in a lot of challenging relationships. And I don't mean personal. They were personal, but they were business relationships. And these organizations were just known, and these people in these organizations were just known as really, other people call them assholes. I call them challenging personalities. And it was just literally like holding Jell-O. Some shit's going to hit the ground. You just don't know. What hit the ground? I don't know. Was that the good part? I don't know. It could be. Like, you don't know. So it just becomes me finding friends. When I went to Latin America, I stood out, blonde hair, blue eyes, and, filmmaker, and, and a little bit known. I'm the only Kristian Kremple on the planet, so it's not like you can Google me and find somebody else. There's tons of stuff on me, lots. And it's all positive, thank God. I saw how well received I was down there. I mean, they literally have told me I'm the most, like these people in Argentina. I mean, I'm with the Minister of Defense a few months ago, Luis Petri, and Javier Milei, the president of Argentina. And they literally say, you're the most interesting guy I've ever met. I mean, I fly fighter jets. I, jump out of helicopters. I'll show you a video. I had a fighter jet come apart. I was flying a MiG in 2019. I'll show you the video. It would happen to be running. I was flying a MiG. And the damn thing came apart, man. And it did some damage in my head, for sure. And I think when you have these catastrophic events happen, and then, I remember being in Argentina, and I walked in the room, and I would start just telling basic stories, like about, the invasion into Afghanistan. you know, the horse soldiers. And you see this glazed over look. It's just like glazed over. And, you know, like I'm telling, this is what, so I never told my whole story in my life until last year in Argentina. A lot of it was just because there's a lot of reasons why, but I never, even my ex-wife didn't know the majority of the stuff I did in special ops and in my relationship. Just had no idea. We never talked about it. It wasn't that type of relationship. I know, I get it. It wasn't that type of, that was one of the reasons why this all ended. But I got down there and I started dating somebody who just fantastic person. Just, I didn't know these type of people existed. Like I'd never had this type of like, she didn't give a shit. You know, she didn't care about all that Grammy red card. It was bottom of the world. Couldn't be further away from it all. She was aware of it, but it didn't matter to her. So it was a very authentic relationship. And I remember I told her, the first person I actually told everything to. And it was so liberating. And I told her everything.
Yeah.
Like, and there's no bad stuff, guys. It was just some bad stuff that happened to me that I didn't share, or I did share and people didn't listen when and I said it to her, and yeah, it shocked her. It shocked her. And I have a text from her. It's like, I never said that whole thing. But you know, here's the funny part. I was in Argentina at the bottom of the world and I felt protected. I felt like, well, hell, they speak Spanish anyway, but I tell them this stuff and then I may never see them again, right? Yeah. So I did feel like it was therapeutic for me because I got to relive a lot of stuff that I couldn't say here or hadn't said here for years to anyone. I mean, I have groups of friends that know this about me, and I have groups of friends that, like, people just realized recently when I started doing, when they see during COVID, they see me back with in the special operations community, and there's people that knew me for a decade that only thought I did the Grammy and Emmy Awards. And so they're like, wait, you're a Hollywood, like, pretty boy. Like, how did you get in special operations? I'm like, yeah, that it was always there. We didn't talk about it because that's not what you wanted to know. Every time I would be in your house party here in South Tampa or in someone's house, they wanted to talk to me about the Grammys. Because they never wanted to. And I didn't hide it from anyone.
Yeah.
I just didn't lead out with it. Like if people would Google and there's a white paper written on me and the invasion into the first victory in the 21st century, Mazar Sharif in Afghanistan, which was the response to the 9/11, that you can pull up, Kristian Kremple and Mazar Sharif. And when people started to discuss, and so Joint Special Operations University wrote this article and I contributed and it went up. And then I'm the only guy without a little funny green hat that's credited to this. And people went, I didn't know. I said, we didn't have that type of relationship. And people said, well, how did your wife didn't know? I said, we didn't have that type of relationship. And so in Argentina, I felt like, what were they going to do? Like, they don't know me. It was such a fresh start. Like, it was like, and it was such an opportunity to like hit reset without any they had no expectations of me. I mean, other than whatever they thought from reading the internet, right? Yeah. But that was enough to like give me opportunity and access. And, get me a ticket into the room, into the Casa Rosada, the Pink House, which is their White House. Or, that was enough to get me in the door. And then I would just, we'd have a beer and I'd just start telling stories. And then I'd watch how their jaws were on the ground. And I realized, well, shit, man, you're the entertainer in the room. Like, people want to be entertained. And having somebody in the room and it's had all these wild experiences, to me, they just seem normal. And then when I went out into Solange, the girl I was dating in Argentina, she said, I've never heard of a person like you. Like, most people around the world don't even fly on airplanes, just so you know that. That's an American thing. People don't, let alone pilot your own aircraft. Like, that's for somebody else. Like, that, not them, right? So to see, like, wait, you fly fighter jets and you jump out of out of them. Like, my dad, she sent me a message. My dad says you're special. I thought that was so cute. That was like the cutest thing ever. My dad says you're a great man and one of the special ones. And I just thought, oh my God, no wonder I'm with you. Because it's all about, my ex-wife would have marginalized it, just to put it in perspective. She would have well, that's why I married you. She never called me my first name. Don't date somebody that doesn't call you. It was always Mr. Kremple. Like, my own wife called me Mr. Kremple, which is insane to me. It was insane to me. And she would be well, that's why I married you. That's your job. And I just thought, oh yeah, that's not the way to lead. That did not make me want to do more. Mm-hmm. Like, I just signed the American Music Awards and the Billboard Music Awards. I signed them in one day. Both. Best pitch I ever had in my life. This was 2014. I went to Dick Clark Productions. I had the Grammys, I had the Emmys, I had the Country Music Awards. And Dick Clark Productions owns the Grammys. They own the Billboard Music Awards, American Music Awards, Streaming Awards, Miss America, and the Golden Globes. And so I walked in, and obviously I'd been with the Grammys now like 4 years, and so I'd built a reputation. And funny enough, the two buildings in Santa Monica, they're right next to each other. Dick Clark Productions, Recording Academy. 30-30 Olympic and 30-28 Olympic. They're right next to each other. So I walked out of the Grammy office, literally one day. I had scheduled a meeting, walked 150 meters, walked into Dick Clark, and I pitched blinding pitch. Like I was on fire, man, fuego. And it was nuclear. And my ex was at the house, and I came home. I was like so excited. I mean, it was insane. It was like that. Those are like hitting when you hit like the perfect golf shot or that feeling, right? They're hard to get.
On top of the world.
And I just signed both of them in one meeting. And she goes, well, that's why I married you. That's your job. Now let's go to dinner. I mean, do you know what that did to me? Like that was like, it was gutting.
Type of pain.
I was gutting.
Cutting into that feeling.
I'm feeding her addiction is all I'm doing. That's when I realized I was feeding her insecurities and her addiction. And when signing, I don't care if you sign Xerox to like a monthly deal, man, like that's a cause for, when you can get somebody to say yes to your vision or your widget or your product, that's the best feeling in the world. I love that feeling, that game. Like when I go in and pitch like a script or whatever and I can walk out with money, like you